Rightio. Thank you. So the first presentation this afternoon's been delivered by Ekin Eraydin. He's the director at MineGuard, and the title of the presentation is Blending Safety 1 and Safety 2, Real-World Case Study of Generative AI1 in Action. I'm intrigued. So let's welcome Ekin. Thank you.
Thanks, team. I appreciate it. I had a lot of reflections when I arrived at Newcastle Airport this morning. Obviously, climatized to Queensland in the last 5 years. It was a bit of a shock with weather, but yeah, I started my career as a mining engineer. My name is Ekin and Eraydin. Started at Eraydin mine 15 years ago, and I actually probably learned 70–80% of everything I know about mining at Eraydin in a couple of years that I've been there. Fantastic workplace, and I can see a lot of familiar faces here that has gone through that school of mining, so it's a privilege to come and actually deliver this presentation here. Today, basically, we'll talk about AI and also the opportunities of how we can integrate AI into mine management and mine safety management specifically. And we'll do it by actually looking at a new generation of tools that we are developing. The one that we're going to talk about right now is the incident AI, and we were able to run different safety cultures or different safety perspectives through this AI tool to generate different outcomes from the same evidence information. So that's very powerful. Firstly, we will introduce you Safety 1, Safety 2 concepts, which I'm sure you are quite aware of them. And then we'll look at the tool, and then we're going to look at the actual case study and the outputs. So next slide is about Safety 1 and Safety 2. So what we mean by Safety 1 and Safety 2 is, on the left, Safety 1, which is our traditional view, right? So how ICAM tool has been developed in the past. So why did things go wrong? We count on failures, look for the broken barrier or the missing cheese and broken cheese on the cheese model, and fix it with a new rule or extra cheese or additional controls. People are often seen as a source of error. So controls and tightens around them, right? And Safety 2 is the framework where I guess we talk about learning teams, HOP principles. They all relate to each other. And same workplace, but different questions. So why do things usually go right, and what occasionally knocks us off, of course? Here, people are not broken, not the problem, but the solution. So we need to generate, I guess, the capacity for the system to fail safely is the approach in Safety 2. And it looks at more organizational learnings than the traditional approach. And we will get to the end of the presentation with the finding that obviously they are not replace one for all type of approaches we found. We actually found that we can actually use both safety concepts at the same time to generate better investigation findings and learn from incidents. So just to introduce the tool we have, I'll get Cem, who's our technical director. So he will go through the simple workflow of the tool that we use to do this case study. Thanks, Cem.
Thanks, Ekin. So this one. So yeah, Incident AI is a tool that assists the investigator with the investigation, which provides a better experience and improved analysis outcomes as well. And from a very high-level perspective, how it works is just implementing these 3 steps. So first, the user can upload their evidence for the investigation. And the next step is sending this evidence after a bunch of processing to generative AI, large language models. And then the last step is the human review, which is still a very crucial step in the process. The upload step happens in a secure way. So Incident AI provides single sign-on and multi-factor authentication as well, which can integrate with the Mine sites, like the user system, user management system such as LDAP or Active Directory. And also any sensitive data is encrypted behind the scenes as well, so securely handled. And in terms of generating the initial analysis results, so that step involves pretty much first refining the data and making it ready for the large language model that is going to be processed. And what we're using here is the best tool for the purpose, which is really good at investigation and analysis. And then human review part is gathering the analysis outputs and then editing if necessary and sharing with the colleagues and finalizing the investigation. So yeah, in a nutshell, on the left you can see the evidence upload part. And well, typically in an investigation, we can have handwritten statements and some interview notes or even interview audio and video. Then SHMS documents or relevant training documents and risk assessment and anything like that. And it basically supports almost all types of file extensions, any kind of document, PDF, Word, or audio, video files. And then, so in the center, there's this Incident AI service which just collates all that data and then potentially refining it or splitting or sometimes compressing it in order to be able to send to the analysis. Then after the analysis, the results are evaluated and potentially approved by a human, like the investigator himself. And then analysis is finalized. But in the middle there, you can also see that arrow going up to the evidence collection. That's an interesting part because sometimes, most of the time, the initial analysis results can also be used to further investigate the incident, as in it's guiding us through what additional questions we can ask and what gaps do we have in the analysis for us to find out. And then the arrow goes back to left at the top to feed that information back into the analysis and incrementally increase the investigation quality. So yeah, it's in action. So just selecting some handwritten text, and it's pretty good at reading handwritten texts. Probably better than an average person who is not familiar with weird handwritings. So yeah, we can select all the files, as you can see on the right-hand side. We can also give some context about the site in question. Is it like an underground or open cut? And on the left, you can see some of the tools. It can do some discrepancy analysis, generate follow-up questions, and more complex analysis like root cause analysis. Yeah, this is pointing us to the iteration part, which is, again, like getting more answers or identifying some of the gaps based on the initial analysis and then finding out more about them or asking further questions that the tool guides us through. So yeah, you're also able to edit and save the results. Editing is obviously when a very experienced or any investigator can just update the results if it doesn't fit the facts for some reason, or there are maybe minor details that just needs to be updated. Or potentially you can get multiple versions of the same analysis and then combine them manually as well. Saving it has multiple advantages as well. So saving the analysis allows us to come back to it and update or share with the group, like the Mine site members or anyone in the company perhaps. And also based on the saved analysis, we are capable of doing additional analysis, looking at the past, gather more information and feed it into the tool in a customer specialized way. Yeah, in the end, we can create also a nice PDF report that we can share, perhaps meet and work on it with pen and paper, or just distribute, or helps with finalizing the investigation. So in the end, there are several advantages to this approach. First, it applies ICAM rigor automatically. So that's like flagging the missing evidence to guide further evidence collection and further investigation, and feed it back to the analysis potentially. Generates outputs instantly. So a very large amount of evidence is just analyzed pretty quickly within seconds. So, for a reasonable amount of data, we see that it takes like under 3 minutes in general. So it's pretty quick. Improves crew engagement in the sense that the output is very, human-friendly and user-friendly, and the outputs are pretty much customizable in very different ways. For instance, the outputs can change based on the context, which is very familiar to the crew, and they are able to recognize, and they're really familiar with the context and also perhaps the terminology as well. It can handle large data sets in any format. So in terms of format, not only it's able to support a wide variety of file formats, but also you wouldn't need to worry about, for instance, compressing the data or splitting it into pages or anything like that. So there's a lot of internal processing happening there in order to make this process really effective. If the company starts using the tool, obviously it's going to be consistent across the company. And this will standardize the quality of the analysis as well, investigation as well. It saves significant amount of time. We have been doing some trials with some companies, and they are reporting, it had saved them multiple days. It's just, it's more than a day, obviously. We're all aware how difficult and how time-consuming these investigations can be. The other benefit to using this tool is the organizational focus. So often with the manual investigation and most of the perhaps lower quality investigations, we can find that there's a lot of finger pointing and blaming individuals, but it's more like it's tuned. We tuned it to focus on organizational and systemic issues. So there is pretty good satisfaction level for this, and it can be integrated with existing safety management systems as well. I'm handing over back to Ekin.
Thanks, Cem. I appreciate it. That's the tool that we used for this research. So next, we can talk about the case study. So this is where I got extremely excited when we tried this a couple of weeks ago. It's the first time we're presenting these findings. Basically, we've looked at a high-wall failure incident where an excavator got damage and the operator was injured on this incident, and there was a blast before the excavation occurred onto the digger failure, and there was also a lot of wet weather before the event as well. So in this analysis, we used 5 witness statements, all handwritten, geotechnical reports, OC reports, blast reports, site procedures. They're all uploaded to the system. So in the control case, we use the same evidence and the same tool, but what we changed is the framing of the AI. Because when we actually run these tools, we frame the AI to do a certain specific task. For example, we say, look, work on the timeline or work on the people. And if we actually change that framing on how we actually engage AI, the outputs have changed significantly. All right, so let's go into detail. So in the interview questions, what we found is the generic framing. A good example it suggested for a supervisor to go and ask was, why did you declare the area safe without geotech present? And the impact on the investigation was it was implying error and triggering defensive responses in the question itself. But with the safety 2 framing, the question changed to what information and pressures shaped your decision to call all clear. That actually reveals context and uncovers system issues and encourages honest disclosure and more open discussion on the interview. So what we're finding as we test the system across mine sites is they're finding the tool extremely helpful for the supervisors. As soon as the incident occurs, they can just chuck a couple of witness statements and go back to the crew and ask important questions about the incident. So you get live information on the actual event straight after the event, and helping supervisors immensely because they've got probably 20 other jobs to deal with as well as collecting evidence and interview questions. So in this example, we found that safety 2 approach brought context and focused on organizational patterns. And summary of that is we've increased the sense-making questions that the AI generates from an investigation for follow-up interviews, increased by 32%, and 32% to 74%. So in the sense-making, the generic questions, there were questions like, there's just like 2 minutes difference between 2 different witness statements about the time of the event. So it's picking up those small but detailed accuracy questions. But in the sense-making questions on safety 2 aspect, it was more asking about organizationally important questions. So we saw an improvement of 2.3 times in the quality of inquiry. So we found Hope-style questions elicits richer narratives, reduces defensive responses, surfaces systematic contributors, and connects evidence to learning when you actually use those types of witness questions for interviews. Next, we'll talk about what the AI actually generated for contributing factors. So there's a list of factors on the left and on the right. It's the same order. Left is generic, right is safety 2. What we found is interesting because the safety 1 ordered the context, 2 of the context issues first, like the heavy rainfall and the blast vibration, which are completely valid and they are contributing factors. But safety 2 framework only had, for example, systematic issues at the top 5, but then it started putting the context at the end as well. So what we're finding is there's definitely merit in using both approaches when you're investigating, and AI is giving us the power to do so extremely quickly. I guess in regards to contributing factors, again, safety 2 analysis gave us what failed to how did work adapt under pressure. So that's kind of an example how the framing has changed. Next, let's talk about the root cause analysis. So basically, the tool produces the potential root cause from the evidence. And on the left-hand side, heavy rainfall and blast vibration destabilized the low wall. Inadequate post-blast inspection failed to detect the hazard. And on the safety 2, production time pressure led to a quick visual scan. Rainfall, blast, and geotech data were never integrated, creating an information flow breakdown. So it's a significantly different way of looking at investigation, and we believe we should probably integrate both into our tool going forward. ICAM table findings, very similar. So in generic lens, error and outcome perspective, but in the safety 2 lens, it's performance in context perspective. And the wording of the outputs were also changing from, for example, deficit-based wording to systems interaction focus and system focus wording. In regards to the actions, so the tools in both scenarios are tuned to give us organizational factors and organizational learnings and actions. So in the generic approach, obviously these are very shortened versions of those actions, but it was telling us we need to install maybe a radar going forward in those situations, or upgrade drainage at the low wall, retain supervisor on post-blast checklist. So it was forcing us to do, admin type of approach. But in the safety 2 approach, the actions were build weather blast geotech risk dashboard. So it's like a joint systematic solution to reduce a lot of other risks as well. And also joint geotech blast operations inspection protocol. So you work as a team, work as a system, and reduce the chance of human factor causing a repeat incident. All right, from the organizational learnings, we found the blue is the generic one. So the individuals have dropped significantly in the safety 2 frame, while the organizational learnings jumped up significantly. So that's very useful to actually run in both scenarios to actually get a bit of a mix. Because there are incidents from my own practice, from my own work. You also need those hard barriers in generic form. If it's a simple incident and a simple control didn't work, you can always go and fix it rapidly, but meanwhile working on the systematic issues maybe on a longer time. So I think they're both quite relevant, we're finding. So interesting, the cost for the business has increased for us. So if you run the second framing, which is the hop, the cost to run for us is higher by 15% for the investigation, but it's extremely worth it because running it so quick. If we were to do this analysis manually, we would have spent more than 40 hours, but AI was able to do this comparison within basically a couple of hours. And that brings us to conclusion about this topic. So why purpose-built safety AI matters? Because it gives us the benefit of running different safety frames very quickly and asking different type of questions to your evidence to really eliminate the bias. And the cost of incomplete causal analysis in mining operations far exceeds the convenience of general purpose AI cost. It's nothing, as you know, in regards to Gen AI is getting extremely cheap. And the purpose-built AI, these types of solutions are important for mining, especially because you want some control in how these tools are built. As you can understand, it impacts the outcomes significantly. So you need to have a trusted partner and controlled way of building these tools so you can actually have data security, cybersecurity, but also framing security. So obviously you can do most of this analysis if you just open a browser now for free, probably in one of the famous, tools, but it won't be as consistent. It won't be data safe, but also the framing won't be right and aligned to your company's principles. You can always check our, Incident AI page on the left in the QR code, but also on the right we have a data security statement on how we had to build the tool to be accepted with the multiple companies that we are trialing at the moment. So there's a lot of work going into data security so we can work with companies quite easily. And implementation is easy. So basically pilot case, you can test a couple of investigations, compare the manual versus AI, and make your own decision if you want to scale up or not. And the training takes a couple of days. It's extremely simple, plug and play at this stage. That's probably the end of our first presentation. So please feel free to get in contact with us using that QR code as well if you'd like to learn more about this technology. But yeah, we are there's two of the only, sites from companies from Queensland working on AI, and also got the Innovation Hub 30 Award. Thanks a lot for your support. I think, I hope you are used to my accent by now, because the next presentation is also ours.
So I guess we'll flow straight into your next presentation.
If there's any questions, I'm happy to take, because they're slightly different.
Slightly.
Yeah.
Any questions on that first presentation?
Yeah, thanks, Ekin. Mate, with investigations, you use a lot of intuition and curiosity, especially when you're undertaking interviews. How's the like AI is brilliant, but how have you gone with the models and the learning and the language to be able to embed that intuition and curiosity?
It's fascinatingly impressive what the current state of AI can do. Like the models that we use are the top-notch, I guess, generative AI models that's possibly like marketably available to us, and they have been trained on significant amount of data. So framing is the key there, which is our business model, that we actually implement certain type of framings to make sure that that model behaves the way that it is to our customers.
In addition to that,
Microphone.
sorry. In addition to that, there's a possibility of fine-tuning the AI to give answers based on your requirements, in a sense. If it needs to be curious, then there's a setting called temperature. So the lower the temperature goes, the higher the temperature goes, it's going to be more solid and very fact-based analysis and answers or suggestions. If it's more like a low temperature, so you can adjust that and then say, more curious answers, or so just think along the lines of not just fact-based, but think along the lines of what might have happened, in a sense. So there are ways to fine-tune it. Prompt engineering is also part of it. So in prompt engineering, we can also say that, hey, you are the investigator and you're curious about this, and ask the questions to find out more. Just in a nutshell, as an example, it's much more complex than this, but yeah, there are ways to tune it, yeah.
And we also actually, when we deploy to a site, we actually get the site knowledge. For example, your risk management procedures, your site size, specific information about your site, to actually go into a layer inside our tool that becomes basically knowledgeable about your site and some of your procedures as well.
So Rob Regan, I've just got a question. You say the last part of the process is for the human review, if you like, and that. When you are feeding so much data into the AI system, how does the human get a grasp of whether or not the information comes back in an appropriate form or with appropriate answers? Because you haven't spent 40 hours doing it, you've just left the machine to do
I think it's an excellent question. And one of the ways we are developing at the moment is to actually review the evidence by evidence. So we are developing a method where you can actually look at the relativity of the specific evidence file to the other evidence files, but also holistically if that evidence files actually make sense compared to the other files. So you'll basically see some scores on the evidence of relativity, bias, like human bias, and also we found users sometimes just upload random files that doesn't actually belong to the incident. But again, the solution we found is to AI to detect that and let us know that there's an evidence that doesn't relate to this incident. Yep.
Sorry, so there are summaries that come back with this that actually guide your review.
Yep. Yep. And also we actually have a quality QA/QC tool. So you finalize your evidence, you got your ICAM output, you can actually push that back into the system for evaluation against the evidence, and will highlight what doesn't actually belong to the evidence. So if you've edited too much, you're going away from the facts, the tool actually highlights those sections. Yeah.
So thanks, Ekin. So we'll